there, probably girls, but we're excited to chat today. We're going to have a bunch of great prizes, and you're here with the Smitten authors, all of us except for Diann, who still isn't doing well enough to do this, but she's doing better, in case you've been wondering. So we're going to be giving away tons of great prizes. We're going to start with a little intro. I'm Colleen Coble. I'm the author of lots and lots of romantic mysteries, and I like to see justice prevail in my books. And I'm also a grandma. I have one granddaughter who's great and the light of my life. So that's me. And now Kristin's going to introduce herself.
Hi all, I'm Kristin Billerbeck, and I am a fourth-generation Californian. Very proud of that because I'm one of the normal ones here. And I have been writing chick lit and romance for the last 17 years, and I have 4 children ranging in age from 18 down to 12. And now here's Denise.
Hi everybody, I'm glad you can make it today. I am Denise Hunter, and let's see, I live in Indiana and not too far from Colleen and Diann. We live about an hour apart, so we get together regularly and brainstorm, and when we can't, we get together with Chris on the phone. But I live in Indiana, as I said, with my husband and 3 boys, ages 13, 17, and 20. My 20-year-old's at college. And I started writing in 1996. I had wanted to write for quite a while, but I kind of just put it on the back burner, like we do sometimes. And after my grandfather passed away, I kind of felt the need to do something about my writing. So God prompted me to get going on that, and I did. And so I've been writing ever since. And some of the things that I like to do, I like to eat sweets, unfortunately, but I also definitely chocolate, but I have other vices too, basically anything with sugar. And I also drink a lot of green tea, though, so the good thing is I kind of balance the 2 things out. At least that's what I tell myself. And I also love to travel, and which works out very well when you're a writer because you do a lot of research trips. So Colleen already mentioned that our other co-author, Diann, won't be here tonight with us, but please keep her in your prayers. I know she covets them very much. Okay, next we will dive right into the behind-the-scenes stuff. And the first thing we're going to talk about is how Smitten, the Smitten series, actually came about. Because the book that just came out, Secretly Smitten, is the 2nd book in the series. So the first book in the series was just called Smitten. And here's how it came about. There's a little bit of backstory to it, and it's kind of fun because our friend Diann had not been ever in a collection with us. Colleen and Kristin and I had done collections together, and Diann might have just whined a little bit, a time or 2.
A little bit, yeah. Like a whole lot.
I was trying to be nice since she's not here to defend herself. But, so, yeah, she whined a little bit about it. And so when the opportunity arose for us to write a collection together, we were all on board because, number 1, we knew we were going to get to write a collection with our good friends. And number 2, it would put an end to Diann's whining once and for all. So what we did was we came up with, through email, we sent zillions of emails back and forth, I think, and we came up with 3 solid ideas for a novella collection. And we all kind of secretly were hoping for Smitten because we just all love the idea so much. So we sent Colleen down to Nashville to talk to our publisher, Thomas Nelson, because we knew that she would be able to coerce them into doing the one that we wanted. And actually, it didn't take much coercion at all. They've jumped on board the whole Smitten train and have been very good and very excited about it for us. So next you're going to be hearing from Kristin, and she's going to be talking about that first book of the series and what it was about. Kristin?
Okay, well, the first book, Smitten, what we really wanted to do was celebrate our friendship in a book. And so Smitten came about, we each used each other's personalities as our characters in that first novel. So it was really no trouble at all to write because we each knew how the other one would answer a question. And there were actually places when we were writing the first draft where we had answered the same thing for, like, Colleen's character. She said the same thing in both of our books because we just knew that's what she would say. So that's sort of the backstory of how the the story came along that we would each use each other's characters, but the actual town of Smitten, we wanted it to represent just the community that people desire in today's world, and how we have that community in our friendships. I mean, we may not be right next to each other, but the four of us really have that community that makes up Smitten. And so that's how Smitten came about. And then Secretly Smitten, we really wanted to tie the stories, just bring something a little extra to Secretly Smitten. And so we had an overarching theme and storyline, and I think that really worked out well because Colleen got to use her mystery more, and Denise got to use more of her romance, and I got to use a little humor, and so did Diann. And so that Secretly Smitten story just really worked itself out because the characters weren't the same. We had to work with different characters, so we wanted to have something that really tied it together for us and made it interesting. And now I guess Colleen is going to tell us about Secretly Smitten further.
Okay, well, Secretly Smitten was really fun because we got to use this really cool mystery. We started kicking some ideas around. We came up with a character that has been in the first book. Her name was Rose, and in her attic the characters found some dog tags that should not have been there. They belonged to her first love. He died in the Korean War. She never knew what really happened to him. His dog tags were never found. Well, then how did they end up in the attic? And so all through Secretly Smitten, we are weaving out that mystery as well as doing the romances in each of those four stories. So it was very fun for me in particular, since I like to write mysteries, but the other girls got on board too. And Jennifer has a question for us out there in the audience. She wants to know what our favorite part of the book is that we've written. I think for me, my favorite part was getting to put words in my friend's mouth, because as I was writing these stories, I was picturing Denise and Diann and Kristin. I got to write about Kristin's great shoes, and she has a magic touch with purses too. I told her one time that I wanted to get a new purse, and she sent me the exact purse I would have, if I could have found the right one, she knew which one was perfect. So that's just Kristin, and it was just fun to be able to put those things in that we love about each other into a story. Kristin, how about you? What was your favorite part?
I think that my favorite part was also putting the negative side of us in, the quirky. Hey! I think that's what makes the characters well-rounded is, you have this fabulous side, and then your friends have this quirky side that you put up with. And, they put up with me using all the bath towels at a hotel, and I
yeah.
Colleen's health kick of the month, and so I had the most fun with that. What about you, Denise?
I think for me the favorite part is being able to put words in each other's mouth and knowing when a piece of dialogue comes to you as you're writing and you just know exactly who said that, because I know who would have said that, and if it's something that people think but probably wouldn't say out loud, it definitely is coming out of Kristin's mouth. And Diann is the person who's always encouraging and sweet, and Colleen tends to the nurturing / bossy, so it was very easy.
Bossy, hey, come on!
Nurturing.
I'm Mom. What do you expect?
Nurturing too. It's the yin and yang of that quality, I think. But yeah, I think that was my favorite part of that.
And Denise, there's a question for you. Steph J wants to know if you or any of us have ever been asleep but then had an idea that you thought was great to write about and just had to start writing at that exact moment. I think we all have.
I gotta say, as far as sleep goes, there is not very many things I'm willing to wake up for. I love my sleep. But in that twilight moment before I actually fall asleep, I do come up with ideas, and I learned a long time ago that if I want to remember it in the morning, it has got to be written down, because if not, I will completely lose it. So yes, I do write ideas down, but no, I don't get up and start writing books.
My best idea, I was writing Cry in the Night, and we were driving somewhere, and I was kind of dozing just a little bit, and I suddenly bolted upright, and I said to Dave, "Oh, what if Rob didn't really die?" So those of you that read my Rock Harbor series, you know what that's all about, and So I always try to do a little dozing when I'm trying to figure out a plot point.
I would say for me, I have written stuff down in the middle of the night, gotten up, written it down, and then, I think it's brilliant, and I absolutely have to get it down on paper. And when I wake up, I have no idea what it means.
I have had those too.
Yeah, I've had that happen too.
And Marge Z wants to know if it's easier to work together on a book or by yourself. Yeah, it's good and bad both ways, isn't it, girls?
Yep.
Anybody want to take that one? Chris, you want to take that one?
It's definitely harder for me to work as a group because it takes a lot of organization, and that is my weak spot in life. So that part is really difficult, but knowing that I can rely on the fact that Colleen is the mother and Denise is the organizer, I know I can kind of, hang on to their tails and go for the ride. But
Yeah.
Why don't we jump back to the regular questions, because some of these we actually will answer ourselves.
Sure thing. So
I think,
go
where
ahead.
are we at?
We're the next question is, was it hard to come up with the idea for book 2? And that's you, Kristin.
Yes, it was hard to come up with the idea for book 2 because the first one we had used all of our own characters to represent the 4 girls. And so in the second one, we couldn't really do that. We had to come up with new characters and then know who each was going to write. So that was a little harder just because it took a little more understanding of what the other people were doing. And we really wanted to tie that together in that mystery. So I just remember when we were sitting down and someone came up with the idea for the dog tags, and all of a sudden all the ideas started flowing, and then it just really worked from there. So, but we went through a lot of bad ideas before we got to that.
And Denise, is there going to be a 3rd book?
Oh, absolutely, there's going to be a 3rd book. In fact, I just turned in my part today, the novella that I wrote, and I know you girls are all pretty close to finishing up yourselves.
Yeah, I finished up today. I'm just doing a final read-through.
One thing we've been doing for the last 2 novella collections is we've been meeting at a cabin, the authors and our publishers, editors, and we've been brainstorming the stories together. So it's been really fun to do that in person, and we're always willing to find an excuse to get together anyway. But it's been a lot of fun to brainstorm the ideas in person and just take 2 or 3 days and really flesh things out. But this one that we're working on now and just getting ready to finish is tentatively called Smitten by the Book. And just like the other Smittens, this one will be tied together with 4 friends. And the 4 friends, in this case, met at a book club. And so that's how their friendship deepens. They get together at the book club, and that's how their friendship develops. But what happens, the overarching theme of this one, is that one of the characters, named Molly, which is my character, her husband dies right before the opening of the book. And so the 4 friends and the whole community of Smitten actually work together to help her with all the things that, her life is just suddenly falling apart. She has a child, and her husband has a business that she knows nothing about, so she's just kind of floundering, and the friends and the whole community come together and just help her kind of put her life back together. And of course, they each find true love, all of the 4 characters in the book. Even Molly eventually moves on with her life and finds that person that God had in mind for her. And another element of the story, which has been kind of fun and kind of more up Colleen's aisle, is there's a treasure hunt. There's an old Smitten lore where there's treasure hidden, and the girls kind of get wind of that and take it on, and throughout the development of the whole story, eventually they keep searching for the treasure, and they're trying to help their friend Molly because she's really devastated financially after her husband's death. So that's kind of another element that kind of gets carried through the entire story. And I think next up is Colleen, and she's going to be talking about how the 4 of us met. Be nice, Colleen.
My favorite story ever! Actually, Kristin and I met first. And I have to tell this story. She's going to cringe, but it's like one of my favorite stories about her. We had met online, and we were critiquing one another, and we both.
I think this story has been told too many times. Anyone has not heard it.
And we decided we were going to go to the same conference, which was Glorietta Christian Writers Conference. We arrived, and got into our cabin, which was painted a fluorescent green practically that was just like, Kristin called it green on steroids, which that tells you a little bit about Chris and her great sense of humor. And she decided she was going to take a bath. If you don't know Kristin, she loves baths. So she went in, ran her bath water. There were 3 towels in there. One was for her hair, one was to dry off with, and one was to stand on. Well, what she didn't know was that all 3 towels, we each had 1 towel to last us the whole weekend. So she kind of like shook them out. We tried to dry them off. So that's how she and I met. And then Denise and I don't live very far apart, only about an hour. So we connected. We were writing for the same publishing house. We all decided to go to Mount Hermon Christian Writers Conference, and we were going to room together. Well, this is another little insight into Kristin. She's not going to camp. So there was a great Hilton hotel just down the street.
Pick on Kristin night.
We were thankful for this, though, because
yes, we were.
So we 3 of us the first time stayed together in one hotel room, sharing one bathroom, 3 girls. But we got along so well together that was fine. And then
and the Hilton brought you towels. That's
right. The Hilton brought us towels. So then, and we were just fast friends immediately when we first met. You know, sometimes God just puts hearts together, and I really believe that's what's happened. And then I met Diann at a thing at Taylor University, and we just clicked, and I just knew the other girls were going to love her, and I talked her into coming to Mount Hermon one year, and that the rest is history. The other girls immediately loved her just like I did, and we've just been fast friends ever since. So it was a fun story. It's one of my very favorites. So.
Colleen had told me that Diann was going to fit right in, and I was going to love her, and I always joke that Colleen is the golden retriever of the group, and I'm the Siamese cat, and I was not going to welcome her. But when I met Diann, it was just immediate. We got along so well, and we both have that kind of luck where stuff just happens to us. So we both have the same sense of humor. So that was really nice to have her added.
And Denise, the next question is, or no, it's Kristin's. Are we really real life best friends? Go for it, girl.
Absolutely. We really are. We really get along. We're totally different, and we love each other, quirks and all. Like we were saying, that was one of the funnest things is writing, you know, the quirks. And like Colleen, she's always on some kick, and so we had the gluten-free kick, which is in the book 1 when we had to eat cauliflower pizza.
Now you have to admit it was really good.
It was good for cauliflower pizza. I will admit that. But yes, we really are. We really love each other for just all parts of our personalities. I mean, because we're so different that you wouldn't think we'd all get along. Like, for example, Denise is so quiet. And the last time I went, I had been by myself for a week. So when I got there, Denise is reading. And I don't think I shut up the entire weekend. And she's so polite. She knows exactly, Kristin's just going to talk, and then she's going to take a bath. And then I can go to bed. And she just puts up with me, and I love that.
You're easy to put up with.
So the next question is, how does the writing process work? And that goes to Denise.
All right. Well, it makes it a whole lot easier to collaborate, I have to say, when you're working with your BFFs, because we check our egos at the door. When somebody has a great idea, we jump on board. If it's a bad idea, we tell them. Nobody gets their feelings hurt. It works really well. What we did for starting with the first one was we decided to use our individual strengths in order to figure out the order in the book. And so we put Colleen first because Colleen is an expert at the setting, and we knew that Smitten was a really unique place, and we knew that she would be able to bring Smitten alive right from the get-go in the story. And then we put Kristin and Diann in the middle because sometimes the middle of a book can kind of sag or get boring, and we knew that Kristin and Diann had the skills necessary, the humor, the great characterization, and the snappy dialogue that would keep the middle propped up very nicely. And then I ended up taking the end because I love
Which is
to
awesome at wrapping things up, all the threads.
I love to tie things up in a neat little bow, and so that worked out well for me. It was the detail thing, and the happily ever after. It was all right up my alley. So that's what I did. And we put together a Smitten master plan because there are so many details. You have a total now of 12 novellas, various characters, so many different places in the town and geological markers, and is there a green clock in the town square or a red clock? And
yeah, that was up for discussion.
Yes, that was up for discussion. But this master plan, we put all of the details in there so that as we're writing, we can make sure and get it straight. But even though we do our best, we still have 2 editors that go through and still manage to find plenty of inconsistencies that we need to fix. Thank God for them. But that's basically how we've been collaborating together. Next, Kristin is going to fill you in on more of the nitty-gritty of collaborating together.
Okay, well, as far as collaborating goes, if people want to know if we work on them, if we edit each other, or if we do that separately. And I would say that it's both, because we have to have our individual stories stand on their own, but then it has to fit into the overall theme, and we have to keep all the details the same. I remember one of our big battles was, does the church have a brick steeple, or does it have a white steeple?
I'd forgotten that. You're right.
Huh?
You're right. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah. So those details, and you know, it's funny because when you're writing your own book, it's so clear in your mind. Well, it's a white steeple, and someone else is so clear that no, it's a brick steeple. And you know, you have this image in your mind that you have to share with other people, and so that part of collaboration, you know, you have to make sure you get it all right. And you win some, you lose some. I don't even remember what color the steeple is now, but I just remember that was an issue. And we do have, like Denise said, we do have editors that come in and clean it up, and we do make mistakes. There are things that we all miss. We do read each other's work, but there are still things that we miss. And then we also, like during the day, we'll talk to each other and say, would your character say this? Or do you have a character who would be like this in personality? So that we can tie all the characters in and make sure that everything is consistent throughout the book. Yep. So let's see. The next question is, what was the best part of working together?
And I have to say that is simply being able to create something fun with your very best friends in the world. There's nothing like that. You know, we'd always thought that it would be fun, but we had no idea till we started doing it just how fun it was. And we've had a lot of laughs over this, and it's brought us closer together, I think. You know, we've gotten to know each other even better through this writing process, so that's been really fun. We have someone out there who says they love the covers of the Smitten books, and were we able to have any input? And yeah, we were. That's great about Thomas Nelson. They never want the author to be unhappy with the cover, so we try to give them our input, but it hasn't been hard because Kristin Billerbeck, our cover designer, is just spectacular. So she's just awesome. Okay, next up is what was the funniest thing that happened while writing Secretly Smitten? Kristin, that's you.
Okay, well, I think it was during the times that we were together, and like I said, Colleen's always on some health kick, and so the first time we were together, it was the cauliflower pizza, and I just remember that, I don't know if you've ever cooked cauliflower, but it does not smell good. And Colleen has cooked this cauliflower into the pizza, and she's trying to tell us all it's going to be absolutely fabulous. And so,
and it was.
I should mention I don't eat cauliflower normally. I've never served it to my kids. That's how much I hate cauliflower. But it wasn't bad.
Now, come on. You had 2 pizzas.
Oh, you would count how many people. I eat a lot, you know. Maybe I just So, and then the second time we were together, she was on this MCT oil and butter in your coffee instead.
And it was good.
But I mean, I just think it's funny. You never know what little quirk, what little health quirk we're going to be forced upon us that particular time. So I definitely think that working together is, it's just the quirks of who we are as people is what makes it fun. And so the funniest is just usually us being ourselves. Yeah. It just makes us laugh.
That's very true. That is very true. I love that.
Anyway,
so what are you working on now, Kristin?
What?
What are you working on now?
What am I working on now? Well, I'm finishing up Smitten because I'm not organized like you guys, and my husband's in Korea, and I have 4 children at home, so that has been a little rough. But next, I have no idea. I have nothing. So I don't know yet. I would like to go back to chick lit. I would like to go back to writing comedy, and so that's probably what I'm going to be working on next.
I still say you need to write a story around an ice skater.
Around an ice
skater. A professional ice skater.
Kristin used to ice skate.
Yeah, Chris used to ice skate really well. So I just am very intrigued with that idea. I still think you need to listen to me. This is
people must be, because Dorothy Hamill is going to be on the next Dancing with the Stars. So.
Oh, wow. See, good timing. It's a sign, Chris. It's a sign.
It's a sign. What are you working on, Colleen?
Well, I just finished up Butterfly Palace, and it's a historical set in Texas, and got butterflies in it. I'll tell you that. And it's got some great suspense. It's set in 1884. So my next project that I'm actually going to be writing next, I'm doing a novella based around the Aloha Reef series. So I'm going back to Hawaii. I'm so excited.
Like you don't go to Hawaii enough.
Really? Yeah. So what are you working on, Denise?
Well, I am working on a new contemporary romance series. It's called Chapel Springs, and it is set in a Midwestern river town, and the first book in that series will come out June 4th, and it's called Barefoot Summer, and I'm very excited about it because it's got a beautiful cover, and I'm just really happy with the way the story turned out. And I also wanted to plug Colleen's Butterfly Palace because we're critique partners, so I read it as she wrote it, and it's just a beautiful story. I think her readers are going to love it. So next, I think we can go back.
Your next book out the gate. I think it's going to just fly off the shelves, Dee. So.
With that cover, I don't know how it could not. I love the cover. Well, let's see. Let's go to a question here. The next question is from Jennifer T. and Ruth S. And they want to know, is there a town in New England that you kind of based it on? Colleen, why don't you take that one?
There sure is. We were trying to settle on a setting. We kicked around quite a few different ones, really, and then somehow we just got on the idea of Vermont and kind of settled on something sort of similar to Stowe. Our story is in that neighborhood, and it's kind of our town of Smitten is kind of a cross between Burlington and Stowe. It's smaller, but a lot of the pictures from Burlington we kind of used as a inspiration. I actually, Denise and I both have been to the area to look around. I have to tell you this fun story about that area. We were out there just as right after that big storm came through, and we had been looking for a prototype of Smitten that I could take pictures of so that we could use it on the website. And we hadn't found anything that was just perfect, and we were on our way back out, and we were on the highway. And Dave looked off to the right, and I did too, and we saw this perfect steeple. And it looked like it had the right kind of town square and everything. And he said, well, you want to go back and look at it? And I said, nah, it's probably not going to be right either because, just nothing is. And he says, oh, we're here, let's just go. So he turned off, and we went down this road that had been washed out by the storm. The bridges were up, just totally destroyed, but we made our way to this town, and it was perfect. It was Smitten in the flesh. I took just tons of pictures. And the really fun thing about Vermont is it has such a great quaint feel, and there's creameries with ice cream. There's Ben and Jerry's, for Pete's sake. And the way the towns are set up with the town square, I mean, it couldn't have been more perfect, could it, Denise? You saw it too.
I did. I loved Vermont. My husband and I kind of traveled all around and just kind of wandered around a lot. We weren't looking for anything in particular. We just wanted to get the flavor of Vermont, and I would jot down names of towns and names of streets and things that I'm not going to find in Indiana, just so that we can be true to the area. And our boys went skiing up there and had a wonderful time, and I just fell in love with Vermont, and we weren't even there at a particularly good time of year. In fact, they had just had a snowstorm, so they got like 6 or 8 inches of snow overnight or something when we were there, but the boys were thrilled because that meant good snow for skiing. So, and it was beautiful. Took some beautiful pictures, and I always like to go to the place that we're writing a story. I think you can get so much out of visiting that you can't get from, research internet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We have one more question. Marge Z wants to know if we've ever disagreed on how to write a certain part in the book. And one of you girls want to take a stab at that?
Take that one. Well,
Colleen and
I disagree on everything. We have fun with that, though. We drive everybody else nuts. Like, Denise and Diann will just stay out of it. Like, I'm going to let those two do battle, and I'm just going to stay out of it.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
And so they're like, Diann and Denise are like, just come back to us when you're done.
Let us know who wins.
Yeah, let us know who wins. And so I would say that we take turns on winning, and what is, if something's really important to someone, that's important to us because, they're my friends, and that's what you do for friends. So if something's really important, the other person will back down if we disagree on something. But there's usually a reason somebody really wants something, and we usually agree because
we just work it out, don't we, until everybody's happy.
And I don't think anybody's feelings are hurt when you don't get what you want, because we know that everyone's motives are pure. Like, we know everybody wants to have the best book, so nobody's trying to just win to destroy the other person. The motive is all good, so that makes it really easy because we trust each other.
Yes. That's an important part of that. The whole process is that trust that we have. I don't think we could do something as intricate as this if we didn't have that innate trust for one another.
That's right. And I think another part of the, it's not really a disagreement, but when something comes up with a story, in fact, just today or yesterday, something came up between Colleen's story and my story, and I questioned her about it, and she saw that it didn't work. What she wrote about my character didn't work for my story, so she changed it in her story. So it's a matter of, whose story it impacts, and if it impacts my story more, I have more say in it, and if it impacts Colleen's story more, she has more say in it. So we're flexible with each other, and it works out pretty well.
Yep. Well, do we have any more questions out there?
Feel free to ask us anything you want.
Well, Sylvia M. says she heard that a movie was going to be made of Smitten. Is that true? Oh, the trials of... Man. It was going to be true. The reason it got out was we had an option coming through, and it looked like it was a completely done deal that was going to happen. But in the movie business, things happen that they don't happen. So that's what happened. It didn't happen. It's not, at the moment. But we do have some more movie interest from a couple of other places. So we'll see what happens. We're still hopeful. Any other questions out there? Well, we could just chat a little bit. Do you girls see my new curly hairdo?
Yes.
What do you think? I'm letting the curl just go.
It looks good that way. You didn't have to do anything to it?
No. There's this new kind of haircut called a weedad. And I got it cut just before we went to Cambodia because I knew there was no fighting the curl in that humidity. I fight really hard on the curl, but I just gave it up. And it's an awesome cut, and it just comes together. It's pretty cool.
So is that what's going to be our next kick? Are we going to get what is it?
I am not going to.
I'll be talking to you about getting that cut, Chris.
We'll all be at the next meeting with the same haircut.
Looks like we have a new question. Have you considered having a book from the tourist's viewpoint? That's interesting. I had not thought of that. Have you girls?
Yes, I have. I did. I thought of having perhaps a young lady who was coming on her honeymoon, but she had gotten jilted at the altar, and so she came on her honeymoon on her own. So I thought about doing that, but I don't know. as you're brainstorming, things morph and change, and before you knew it, it wasn't a tourist, and it wasn't a honeymoon that didn't happen, and it was just something else altogether. So another hard thing about writing a novella is it's really hard to fit in a love story in 100 pages and make it feel realistic. And it's doubly hard to write a realistic romance when you don't have a hero and heroine who at least know each other. It helps if they at least know each other and they've got something that they're building on rather than starting completely from scratch. I learned that with Secretly Smitten. I think the story turned out okay, but they were strangers at the beginning, and about halfway through, I looked at Colleen and I said, next time I want to write a novella about two people who have never met each other, tell me no. It was hard, and I was afraid that it didn't feel right as it was developing, but I think it turned out okay. At least my editor said it did, so I just went with it.
It was great. We have a question here. Do your kids get involved in your writing, and do they want to be writers? My kids don't get involved in my writing. They love it. They're excited that their mom is a writer, and they read everything. But that's about, oh, one other thing. They know anything they do is fair game. So it ends up in a book. When our son got a Harley, I ended up having a Harley riding hero. And when they took up scuba diving, I started having scuba diving in books. So nothing is sacred, and they know it.
My husband will say that a lot when we're in a group and somebody's telling some story, especially if it's a romantic story about somebody they know. He'll stop them right there and say, you should know that this may end up in a book someday. And sometimes it does. Sometimes I take notes on it and put it in my story idea folder because you never know.
write what you think of at the time? Well, I don't have a diary of ideas. I keep that all in my head, which is why I'm not the organized one. Denise would probably be better to answer that question. Denise, are you there? Or did she disappear? I guess she disappeared. Well, I would say that Denise probably keeps a diary. She's pretty on top of everything. There she is. Denise, do you keep a diary of ideas?
I don't keep a diary of ideas, but I have a story folder ideas. I have a big folder just full. It's probably 2 inches thick. I'll never write all the story ideas in there, but every time I need to come up with a plot, I always go through all of those ideas. Some of them are written on back of napkins, and some of them are written on back of bulletins and scraps of paper, and just anywhere I get an idea, I've learned to write it down, because if I don't, I will forget it.
Okay, and Glenda wants to know what is the favorite series that each of us have written? Denise?
That's so hard.
I know, they're all like, what's your favorite child?
I know, it really is. It's almost cruel. But you know, Nantucket was probably my favorite setting-wise. But I love the heroes in my Big Sky series because they're all cowboys, and that's kind of right up my alley. I can't pick a favorite.
I can't pick a favorite either. I would say it's one of my chick lit, probably either the Spa Girls or the Ashley Stockingdale novels, just because they're most like my personality. They're snarky, and they allowed me to be a little more Californian in nature. So,
okay, the next question, have you done the one about how to write when raising a family yet?
No.
Okay. Marge Z wants to know, how do you find the time when you're writing to raise a family? And that's a great question. It has changed over the years. When my kids were little, I wrote only during their nap times, and then when they were in preschool, I wrote when they were at preschool, and then once they entered school, it was like, you know, all of a sudden you've got all this time that you can write, and fortunately the contracts kept coming in at that time, and it just seemed like God gave me just what I needed, just what I had time to write, and He's been really good that way. It's been a wonderful way to do what I love and to be able to stay at home with my kids at the same time. Yeah, it can get kind of hairy, especially in the summer when they're home. I mean, it's a lot easier now because they're older, but when they were younger, the summers could get pretty hairy. Because some people can write in a...
Looks like we lost Denise. Well, I'll take that question as far as how I've raised 4 kids. Well, I did it when they were young. I did exactly what Denise did. I raised them while, you know, I worked while they were sleeping or they were at preschool. And then when school opened up, I did that. But I've always had my office in a main room. Right now I have my own office because my kids are older. But when they were younger, I had an office that was usually in the family room or the living room, so the kids are always right with me when I was writing.
Well, my kids were grown by the time I started writing, so that was never really a impact for me. They were teenagers, and I just took what little time I could at that time, and it just expanded and expanded. And the bad thing is that I got to where it was hard to write unless it was quiet. And now that my husband's retired, I'm having to learn how to write it with stuff going on. So, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I remember when my kids were really young, I would literally leave something mid-sentence, and I would be able to come back to it, you know, and know exactly how I was going to finish that sentence. But my brain is not that sharp anymore, so I can't. I'm glad that happened when they were young.
We have a new question. Steph J wants to know what each of us likes to do for fun when we're not writing. For me, it's probably travel and spending time with my granddaughter. So that's always fun. And I'm always reading. A lot of people say, well, you know, aren't you tired of reading? You know, you're writing all day. Well, yeah, but reading is like my first passion, my love. I love to read. How about you, Chris?
Well, for me, it's definitely reading. I always have my Kindle with me, so when I'm waiting for the kids, I can always just pull it out of my purse and read while I'm waiting. But I love old movies, and I'm a member of an old movie group, and I like to go to old movies and see the classics and hang out with other people who are living in the wrong time era, just like me.
The wrong time era, that's good. And Cindy W. wants to know if we put inside jokes into our collaboration. Well, my gluten-free stuff might have been an inside joke, although we totally explained it all. But yeah, the girls have had to put up with a lot from me. So they've handled it well, though.
Yes, and then we all go right back to our Diet Pepsi when she yeah.
It looks like they asked if there's a Smitten movie being made again, and we did answer that, but it might have been after the thing dropped off, because we did answer that. I'm not sure whether y'all heard it or not, but there was, it looked like it was happening, looked like it was totally, completely happening, but that deal fell through. We do have a couple of other places that are interested, and we're still hopeful, so we'll see.
And Susie wants to know if which character we would be from the Secretly Smitten book, and you can't pick a character from your novella.
Oh man, that's lousy.
No, I think that's kind of, well, first of all, I would like to be Diann's character because she's the nice one. And if I had more niceness in my life would be easier. So I want to be Gumdrops and Roses. I want to be Diann.
I'd like to be more organized like Denise's characters always are. Or like Denise is. Did you know she alphabetizes her spices? Yes, indeed. It's true.
My mother does that too. I don't know how I came from her. I really don't. My mother is exactly like Denise. So, Denise probably has a child.
And she produces you? What the heck?
That's what I'm saying. Denise probably has a child just like me, just meant to make her crazy.
We have another question. Where did you get most of your inspiration from for the characters and setting? Oh my gosh, who knows where that comes from? In these particular novellas, a lot of that inspiration came from ourselves and each other. The setting was from Stowe. It's kind of a combination between Stowe and Burlington. And we visited there. That may have also been something that got lost when we got dropped off. But we've been to Vermont and figured out what we wanted our little town to look like, and voila, it came to be.
This is a good question for you. Jennifer wants to know if there is a snack you can never give up, even though you know it's not good for you.
Oh, peanut M&Ms would be my vice. I love them. I usually get a headache after eating them. I know peanuts contain a lot of mold, and they're not great for me, but my husband is addicted to them, so he's always got them in the house, and oh, it takes some strength every day not to eat those things.
You just managed to make an M&M sound unappetizing. M&M and mold should never be in the same sentence. For me, that would be an iced soy mocha, which I have daily. And
you know, I hate that you drink soy. We've had this discussion before. Soy is so terrible for you.
I'm not giving it up. Can it? The question was, what will you not give up? Even under pressure.
I'm going to keep on you about that. That's really impacting your health.
Good luck with that.
Rick wants to know, what is the strangest things one of your characters did that surprised you?
Even you. Surprised even you.
Surprised even you, yes. Well, they're always surprising me. People ask if I have, if I plot. Well, I tried that once, and I absolutely hated the writing process because I knew what was going to happen next, and I wanted to be surprised. So I don't do that anymore. I just start writing, and I let my characters take me where they will, and I'm always surprised. I'll be typing along, and the next thing I know, those characters are off doing something I had no idea they even knew how to do. So how about you, Chris?
Well, I would say not in these books, but in my chicklets, I was in the middle of the Ashley Stockingdale series, and Seth was the hero, and I got about halfway through the second novel, and I said, I can't tell women this guy's going to commit. This guy's never going to commit. And I had to dump him in the middle of the second book, so that surprised me. Jennifer asks, what is an odd habit you have that you try to hide?
I'm not sure I hide my habits.
I don't hide my habits either.
We're just kind of out there, especially with one another, aren't we?
Yeah, I think my weirdest habit is that I like to watch ghost shows on television in the dark.
That is
by
weird.
myself.
I agree. Yeah.
By myself in the dark.
I love The Walking Dead. People are shocked when I hear that. But other than that, we're just kind of out there. We don't hide much, do we?
No, I don't think so. We're pretty transparent.
Yeah.
Okay, and then where would we like to travel if we could go anywhere?
Well, I just got back from Cambodia. If you follow me on Facebook, you've seen all the pictures, and it was a place I never, ever imagined that I would be. It literally was the other side of the world, and it really opened my eyes to so much of things that we don't even see here in the U.S. It was really amazing. Now, if I were going to go on a fun trip, well, not that that wasn't fun, it was fun, but if I were going to go on a trip that I could just pick somewhere, I have always wanted to go to Australia. So that's my dream someday. And Fiji. I love snorkeling, so anything to do with the water, I'm there. How about you, Chris?
I think that I would like to go to Shanghai.
Oh, wow. Now that's a shock to me.
Is it?
Yeah.
I love everybody who's here. All my Chinese friends, most of them are from Shanghai. I think they're like the Italians of China. They're kind of loud, and they like to shop. And I just think I'd fit in really well there. Although my Mandarin is very poor, but.
Well, I don't even know a word of Mandarin, so I couldn't help you. We have a new question. Someone wants to know if we like tea or coffee best. Yeah, girls, whoever you asked that, come on. If you know us at all, you know we are coffee hounds. Denise is the only one who drinks tea, and that's because she has some adrenal fatigue, and the green tea helps that, and she had to give up coffee. But it wasn't because she didn't like coffee. She loves coffee. Isn't that right, Denise? I think she's still muted. Hello, unmute yourself. There you are. No, unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
I forgot that part.
Yeah.
I want to go to Australia and New Zealand.
Me too. We'll go together. That sounds like a plan.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
One question is, somebody wants to know why I went to Cambodia. I have always dreamed of going on a missions trip, and I'm 61 now. If I'm going to go anywhere, it better be soon. So we started talking about it with our pastor and his wife, and we have a great mission in Cambodia. There's an orphanage there, and those kids just totally stole my heart. It was just awesome. And so we went for 2 weeks, and it was I rode an elephant, you guys. I rode an elephant. It was so cool. So anyway, that's why.
Denise, there's a question for you. In your Big Sky romance series, what actress do you think should play Abigail and Maddie?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I'm not sure about Maddie. I don't know a whole lot of child actor names, but I think Mandy Moore would make a good Abigail. I like to think about that, and oftentimes I will pick actors' photos to represent my characters as I'm writing the story, to give me a good idea of what they look like and personalities and whatever. But yeah, I think Mandy Moore would have made a good Abigail. That's a great question. Do you have people in mind with your characters when you're writing? Do you ever think of stars?
I don't, because I'm much more apt to be reading a book than watching a movie. I know I'm a little bit of an anomaly that way, but I'm a reader, and so I don't keep up on the actors and actresses like I should. Maybe it's a symptom of being too old. I don't know. That's bad. But I should do that, but I don't. Another question is, what kind of writer are we? Fast, slow? I'm very fast. I like to really churn out that first draft very quickly and then go back and play with it. That's what's fun to me.
I don't think I'm fast or slow, but I'm persistent. I make the same amount of pages every day. Every day I want 6 clean pages, and I just make sure I have it. That's what keeps me on deadline, and so I don't think I'm particularly fast or slow.
Chris?
I think I'm a fast writer, but I'm a slow thinker. I never let the characters go while I'm in the story, and if I don't know where they're going, I stop writing. So I can have kind of days without doing anything, but they're talking to me still. They're going to tell me where they're going to go, but sometimes they're just too quiet for my taste.
Steph wants to know if you or I, since we've both written stories in ranching towns, do either one of us know how to ride a horse? You betcha. I grew up on a small farm. We had 2 ponies and a horse, and I've been drugged through the field with my foot in the stirrup after having fallen off the pony. And oh yes, yes indeed. How about you? You've ridden a horse, haven't you?
Yeah, I can sit on a horse and ride, and I'm just fine. I don't mind riding horses at all. I haven't been hanging from a stirrup lately, but I do like to ride. The only thing I don't like to ride, and this sounds really vain and stupid, but I have big thighs, and that is just not the thing to be doing when when you have big thighs. That's all I got to say.
Oh, that's hilarious. Another question was Eliza wants to know, do our kids get involved in our writing? We answered that, but again, that might have been when we dropped off. So. Right.
I cut off. I was actually talking, I think, and I was just going to say that my boys don't read novels at all, but my middle child had to read a novel for one of his classes, and it could be any novel, and I was just so thrilled that he picked mine, even though he's a boy and he's in high school, and he's literally taking my romance novel to school. I was really proud that he would do that. And
he probably got points with the girls.
Maybe he did. He probably did. It was probably a ploy. But he did that, and that made me feel good. So at least somebody in my family's read my books. And also, my oldest son is in college now, and he's taking journalism, so I guess he got a little bit of the writing bug himself.
Yeah, he did. That's right. And I'll recap mine was, no, my kids, the only thing they get involved in is that nothing is sacred. Anything they say or do will end up in a book, and they know it. So when my son got his first Harley, I had a Harley driving hero. When they started diving, oh yeah, that showed up in the book. So they know nothing is sacred.
Cheryl wants to know if you base your characters after people in your personal life. I really don't. I don't know why I don't, but I really don't. Do you guys?
No, I don't either. I've had people ask me that. I guess they assume that writers are going to do that, and I really don't. They just kind of spring up in my mind, all fully grown up. I don't know. How about you, Kristin?
No, I don't really do that either. And I've had friends say, "Oh, I know you based this character on this person," and it hasn't been that. I mean, I don't do that. So it is kind of interesting how people see certain things in other people. And it's usually a negative character, and they see it in someone else. So it's kind of their way of saying this person is that way.
Very nice.
If we've ever incorporated our own life or part of our personal life that's ended up in a book, I do all the time. Any personal issue that I'm going through usually ends up in the story. It just is. Safe in His Arms, which just came out in January. I was the tallest kid in my class until I was in the 7th grade. I always felt unattractive because I was, taller even than the boys. And so that kind of like stamped on me right early on from the time I was a kid. And Margaret in that story is dealing with that same issue. And when I went to Cambodia, here was something that happened. I don't even think I've told you girls. I was at this camp, and this sweet little old lady came up, and she knelt beside me and was patting my foot. And it was because I was, my skin was whiter than hers. And so I patted her on the arm, and I said, "I like your color." And it really brought home, I always thought that our inferiority complexes kind of come from Hollywood, but I think they're just ingrained in us as people. That just really opened my eyes to that a little bit.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Any of the rest of you base your character after people in your personal life at all, or?
There's bits and pieces of me in every one of my books, but I'm hard pressed to think of particularities. But yeah, if I were to read through a book, I'd be finding things all the way through it that came directly from me or one of my experiences. Yeah. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. It's usually something that sparks an idea. Like the Ashley series that I wrote was sparked by having a singles group. I was married and had kids, and I had a singles group in my home, and all the girls were there. And you know how we're supposed to be a Proverbs 31 woman, and God tells us that it's not about what you look like. It's, it's about who you are inside. And this woman came from Brazil or Puerto Rico. I can't remember where she was from, some Latin American country, and she wasn't a Christian. And she was just, I don't know, she exuded sexuality, let's say that. And I mean, the men at the Bible study were falling all over themselves to be around her. And she wasn't a godly woman, and she didn't have any of the things that they supposedly are supposed to look for in a wife. And I just remember that whole event annoying the heck out of me, because they had all these beautiful Christian women around them, which, they were just like nothing after that gal came. And I just remember being really bothered by that, because, it was a universal truth that sometimes life just isn't fair. What we want and what, we're supposed to want can be two different things.
Yep. We have a question on what we would advise for writers just getting started, and I would say read in your genre, and just start hanging around other writers, getting to know the writing process, read books on writing, that kind of thing.
All of those things are good ideas, and don't forget to actually do the writing.
Yes,
yes. Set a goal for yourself, whether it's a weekly goal or a daily goal, and sit your butt in the chair and do the writing, because that's the way you're going to really get better.
And then Jennifer wants to know who makes the trailers, and I don't know.
Our publisher?
They ask us if we like it when it's done, if we, but we don't really have much input into that. That's just something that marketing does. Denise, Sylvia wants to know, she said she loved your Heart Song historicals and wants to know if you've considered writing any more historical?
Oh, thanks, Sylvia. The reason I wrote historicals at the time is because that's what I was reading. I was an avid historical reader, and at some point my taste shifted over to contemporary, and that's when I started writing contemporary and what I continue to write today. But I wouldn't be surprised, because tastes do change, so it wouldn't surprise me if eventually my tastes change to historical. Like you, and I might go back to historical someday, or at least do both at the same time. I don't know. You never know.
Mm-hmm. Glenda wants to know if we know what Diann's favorite part of Smitten was, and I can clearly tell you it was doing it with us. That was her dream, and she loved being able to do it. She loves small towns. She loves the quirky characters. She loves the humor. She got to do her favorite things in that book. So yeah, I'm sure that was it. And then someone wants to know if I'm going to have any more Lone Star books. I never say never. At the moment, they're finished, but I know there'll probably be another one down the road. And TR wants to know who our favorite authors are and what the last book we read was. Let's see. I have a lot of, all the girls here, of course, are my faves. I read everything they write. And I read a lot in the ABA market, so mystery, suspense, but I'll have to say my very favorite author is Stephen King. I know that's a very big shock to people when I say that, but it is. It's my favorite. And I'm waiting for his new book now. Denise?
Favorite authors? I love Rachel Hauck's work and Ginny B. Jones. I also read some in the ABA, but it's hard to find romance that isn't, that isn't clean enough for my taste. But I do love to explore around and read. My latest book that I read wasn't actually a read for pleasure book. I was judging the Ritas, so I've been reading through the contest entries that I'm judging.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, Chris.
Well, I would say my favorite is Maeve Binchy, who we just lost.
Yeah.
And I haven't read her new one, but that is definitely next on
my.
That
just came out. It was on the bestseller list.
Yeah, and I don't even know what the last book. I read a lot of autobiographies, and the last one I just read was Drinking and Tweeting.
Drinking and Tweeting? What a title! Only you, Kristin, only you.
It was actually a really good book. It's by Brandy on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Oh my gosh. Carol wants to know if we had the opportunity to go on the show Survivor, would you? Not in the million.
Not in a million years.
No.
I couldn't even survive the one towel rule for a week.
That's right, let alone going on Survivor. Holy cow.
The food alone eliminates me. No, I could not do it.
And Marge wants to know how many hours a day I write. I sit butt in chair until my word count is done. And, you know, that could be 4 hours, that could be 10 hours, but I sit there till it's finished.
I do the same. I do my first draft, I write 6 pages a day, and if it's a good day, it might be 3 hours, and if it's a bad day, it might be 5. And then when I'm doing edits, I edit all day while the kids are in school from about 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
I'm obsessed when I'm editing. I mean, I'll go literally 16 hours a day when I'm editing. I just can't stop. I'm addicted to it. It's crazy. Kristin?
Well, I don't have a regular schedule right now because I'm just really always busy with the kids. This has been the hardest time for me with the kids. I have basically 4 teenagers. One's 12, but basically 4 teenagers, and they have a social life. So I have none and very little writing. So that's kind of my day.
Well, this has been so much fun, you guys. We're so glad you came and joined us. I want to remind you that you can get Secretly Smitten just about anywhere books are sold, and you can be looking for Smitten by the book. It'll be coming out in December, and as we said, we're just kind of wrapping this up. And I think it ships out in early December. Is that right, girls? Remember?
It might be mid-December.
Mid-December. Okay. And I just want to thank you so much for coming by, and we hope to see you on Facebook or whatever. And the full list of winners is over on the Litfuse's website. That's LITFUSE group.com. So go over there and see if you won. I hope you did. That would be awesome.
Thank you for coming, everybody. We have so enjoyed our time together. We don't actually get time even with just the 3 of us together very often, but it was so much fun having you and answering your questions. Thank you for giving up a portion of your evening.
Yes, we really appreciate you all being here. Thank you.